In this demo, we will take a look as to how we can execute or run our procedure. Here is our procedure update dpt again, where we are declaring lempid of type employee.empid%type. Then we begin the execution section with the begin keyword, where we issue the update statement for the employee table, updating the empdpd ID department ID 2. We then print the rows updated using dbms output and using the SQL %row count function. We make the changes permanent using the commit statement. We then have the exception block, where using dbms output statements, we are printing the SQL error message and the exception stack trace to the console. We roll back the update and raise the error further. There are several ways to run it. The first one is through an anonymous block, where we call it in the executable section by name. Let's run it. We get the output rows updated 1. We can also run it using the call statement as call update dpt with the parentheses. Note the parentheses are required for the call statement. Let's run it. We get the same result. Let us now run it as the exec statement as exec update dpt. Again, we get the same result. And finally, let's run it as execute update dpt. And again, we get the same result. The parentheses are optional with the exec and execute statements. We can also go back to our procedure, and you can run it directly from here by pressing this green triangle. This brings up a run window where it builds an anonymous block for you to run it. Notice here it is calling the update dpt just by name. We will talk about passing parameters to a procedure shortly, but if you had parameters, you could specify them right here and then click OK. It executes the procedure and brings up the log with the messages and our output. If our procedure had output parameters, it would have shown them in this window. Let us now see how to do explicit termination of the procedures. The return keyword returns control immediately to the client. Let's put a return keyword before the dbms output. Let us compile it and run it again. This time it comes back without the dbms output statement. So the return statement calls the execution to jump out of the procedure from the point where it is called. Let us see how the execution will flow in case of an exception. Let us introduce a situation which will result in an exception. Say for instance, let's assign the department ID to a non-existent department ID of 20. This will cause a foreign key violation, causing an exception to be raised. Let's compile this and run it again. The output window reports of an exception. So the execution flows from the update statement to the exception block and then to the client with the raise statement, and the last dbms output statement never gets a chance to be executed.